You're listening to RJ Carbone's BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Running away. Oh my! There's been some great players played for the Knicks over the last 20 years, but in my opinion, he has been the best player to put on that
uniform. Rose, you shook up the world again.
I did it again. My God did it, man. I really just had to have faith in him, and that's what got me through.
That one's drilled deep to left field. Going back, Joyce, looking up. See ya! 3,000. History with an exclamation.
Another chance here. DiVincenzo. He's got it.
Still. How good is Johnny Bones?
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
Into the air to left field and deep. That ball is high. That is far. That is gone. It's a grand slam. Anthony Volpe put a charge in one. A grand slam to left field, and the Yankees now take a 5-2 lead.
You know, I think that was it. We kind of been waiting for that signature win all year. That was definitely the best win of the season, but I think it was their first signature win. You know, you just to go out and get pummeled against a Utah team that you really should have pummeled. I think after that loss, a lot of us were including myself, very nervous and very down on the team and starting to worry a lot more. And then you go into that building in Denver where you don't usually win there in Mile High. You know, I think you have one win since the Melo era. You don't usually win in that building. And to go in there and to put a shellacking on that Denver team, and this time they don't have an excuse like they did last year when the Knicks smacked them by 30. They can't say that it was the end of a long road trip. No, the Knicks went there and they dominated Denver off normal rest. And this was at the end, towards the end of a West Coast trip for the Knicks, actually. So they go and beat that team. They're now winners of 5 out of 6. 10-7 overall, which has them still 4th in the Eastern Conference. But that's exactly how to respond to a loss. That's the way. You know, the first couple minutes were back and forth, but the Knicks eventually turned down the Jets. They didn't look back, and I think early second quarter they were up, 26, 27 points midway through maybe. So there were moments where Denver would cut it to below 15, but that never really lasted. Deuce McBride, couple big shots to extend the lead, and the Knicks eventually win this one by a score of 145-118 in Mile High City. Crazy box numbers. You know, the starters, you go to OG Anunoby with a 40-piece. We will definitely talk about that. Brunson with 23 and 17. That's a career high in assists. Towns with 30 and 15 on 12 for 15 shooting, 80%. You know, the Knicks score 145 points on 45 assists to tie a franchise record from back in 1979, which was 16 years before I was born. So I'm 29 years old. It was awesome. The bench was productive. Campaign and McBride combining for 25 points or 24 points. But I think you have to start with the man who has really done a nice job taking a leap, taking the next step this year in OG Anunoby.
Bing bong.
Bing bong, man. OG last night, 40 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block, shot 16 for 23 from the floor, 5 for 7 from 3, 3 for 3 at the free throw line. He was a plus 21 in 38 minutes. He also fell down 7 more times because that's what he does best. My gosh. And he gets up so slow. It scares the crap out of me every time. It's now 4 game balls on the year for OG, who's, again, he's taken a leap. I mean, look at the season numbers. Anunoby's averaging 19 points per game this year. In the shooting splits, 52%, 42% on threes, 83% at the foul line. You could argue that he's given the Knicks better offense than defense this year. And he's been an excellent defender. You know, he's playing at an all-star level because of this offensive leap. You know, he talks in the postgame. He was talking to Breen and Jamal Crawford, telling them how, I'm paraphrasing, how he worked on diversifying his offensive game in the offseason, becoming more of a complete player. And he was talking about his off-the-dribble shooting, which has been clearly improved. And he was also talking about his above-the-break shooting, which that's been a topic all year for us. He's 43% on above-the-break threes. So not just is he knocking down the corners, which is big in its own right for multiple reasons, but now he's knocking down threes above the break, which is huge, especially for a team like the Knicks. And it was funny because, you know, in the offseason, OG Anunoby was talking about how he wanted a bigger role in half-court offense. He's got a bigger role this year, you know, but it's not really in a traditional way. Like, he's not being featured in a ton of actions. Sure, you saw last night he scored in some pick and roll, and I think the first three-pointer he knocked down came off of a flare action. But for the most part, he's scoring off of his own cuts. He's more aware, and he's using the floor space in front of him. He's using other guys' gravity to score. That allows him to score in multiple ways. He's taking advantage of his teammates. Taking advantage last night of Denver's help defense. Right? A lot of times he would score and spot up when Denver would send help to Brunson one pass away, or if he was spotting up in the corner and Denver sent help to the roll. You know, a couple times they would tag Karl-Anthony Towns on the roll. That left OG Anunoby open. Taking advantage of whenever Denver put Jokic on him. Sometimes they like to hide the Joker to keep him out of the pick and roll because he's not great there. Whenever they had Jokic on OG, he'd cut back door. And then whenever they put, you know, in this game, there was a lot of times where Brunson had a bigger wing on him. So OG would have a mismatch in Jamal Murray, and he would take advantage of him. You know, he was scoring in multiple ways, scoring off of paint touches and spot ups. You know, getting to and past the second level by driving closeouts. And then scoring in some usual defense to offense transitional ways. You know, whether it was the Knicks playing great defense or OG himself in low man help, or from the perimeter contesting, leading to a bucket the other way. So he's been incredible for this Knicks team. I think he's making a case to be an all-star. And, the kid's entering his prime. You know, I feel like a lot of the time we forget this kid, he's only 27 years old. So it's not crazy to think that this could be a career year for him where he goes out there and he averages 20. You know? He can do it, especially with this offense facilitating the way they are, and we will get into that. But OG Anunoby could very well become an all-star this year. It's going to be tough. You know, there's going to be, because the Knicks got off to a slow start. They're not playing well this year, but, you know, so that means, you know, Boston, Cleveland Cleveland's incredible, so they're going to have at least 2, 3, between those two teams, you're probably going to get at least 5, maybe 6 All-Stars. So it's going to be tough to get 3 on the Knicks because I think Towns will be a lock. And it might come down to OG or Brunson if it's only 2 on the Knicks. But just in terms of the way he's playing like an all-star player. He's been so good for this Knicks team. So good. And, he's been so good that he's kind of buying Mikal Bridges a little bit of time here. Where would the Knicks be if OG Anunoby didn't take this leap? Because you've got Mikal Bridges who's come here, and he's been nothing but a flop so far. So if OG wasn't doing what he was doing, the Knicks 10-8 start might be, 4-14 start. He's been arguably the best two-way player on the Knicks. You could probably say overall he's been the second best player on the team. You can make a case. He's been awesome. He's been awesome. I don't know what else to say. But yeah, he's been so good that the Mikal Bridges thing is kind of, we're allowed to wait it out a little bit more, but it needs to get better because Mikal Bridges, real quick on him, I don't want to drag this into a whole Mikal Bridges thing because we talk about it a lot, but he's getting worse. These last 2 nights have been abysmal. It looked like when the Knicks went to play the Nets that maybe he was starting to find something. No, nothing is falling lately. It's not just the above the break threes, but now the corners are dropping. And you need him for the corners because he's able to punish the defense when they help on the roll. You need his above the break shooting so you can remove help off Brunson. Now, we're not at that point yet where the defense is helping off of Mikal. I don't know if we're going to get to that point because he does have a history of knocking down those above the break threes. But it's a little concerning, man, because he's just not really doing anything. Like his whole career, he's been like a top role player in the game because he's consistently good at so many things. There's not, other than, those jumpers right below the nail, that mid-range game, he's not performing well in any area. He's not getting to the free throw line. I don't think he has a free throw attempt since the Chicago Bulls game, and that's 6 games in a row. He's not aggressive. He's not attacking. There's no pop. And then the jumpers he's taking, you can see the hitch in the shot. I said this before. It reminds me of RJ Barrett. It's just, and then you go to the other end. The defense is not great. He has trouble staying attached, whether it's on an island in isolation or if it's off the screen. He's really having trouble fighting over the top of those. It's thank God for OG Anunoby. Let's just wrap that part off there. The Knicks scored 145 last night, and Mikal Bridges gave them nothing. And they scored 145 where Brunson only needed to score 23 of those points. That's the benefit of having so many different weapons that can do so many different things, the ways they can attack you. The Knicks are very good at using their gravity to create spacing and cutting, and then passing off of that. Karl Anthony Towns, his gravity, whether it's as a roller, as a shooter, he's got the passing skills. He's always finding back cutters as a hub up top in a very Isaiah Hartenstein-like manner. Anunoby, the shooting gravity. Now it's from above the break too. The cutting ability, whether it's making those 45 cuts from the wing, spacing cuts to free up room elsewhere, making back cuts where he's scoring at the basket. Josh Hart passing and cutting. He's been like a point guard this year. And then Jalen Brunson with a tremendous playmaking leap this season. 17 assists. The creation improvement in Brunson's game. He's trusting his teammates, and now he's starting to put together some really solid performances back to back. And that's just transforming this entire offense into a more modern offense. It's a modern offense. It's much more modern this year than it was last year and the year before. In fact, I've got some numbers on the screen that should excite a lot of you. In terms of isolation frequency, last year the Knicks were 11th most at 7.2%. That's cut down to the 14th most at 6.6% isolation. Cut frequency, last year they cut the 22nd most in basketball at just 6.1%. That's up to 7.1%, the 13th most this year. Assists per game, last year they were 29th, averaging 24.4. This year they're averaging the 6th most assists with 28.6. 3-point percentage. Last year they were middle of the pack, the 14th best 3-point percentage at 36.9%. This year they're up to 39.8%. That's the second best in basketball. Their offensive rating after last night jumped to its second. It's just 0.4 points per possession, points per 100 possessions behind the Cleveland Cavs. Last year I think they finished 7th in offensive rating. It's just more modern. The passing, the ball movement has been incredible because guys are able to move off those screens much more fluidly because of the spacing on the floor. They tied a franchise high with 45 assists. Last night was their 9th game of the season with 30 or more dimes. They did that 10 times last season the entire way. So I think that's the most important part is they're consistently generating open looks. That's a constant theme all year. They're always getting good looks. Even when the Knicks have bad nights offensively, like they did against Utah, they were still getting good looks in that game. And all of that, all of those things is why we have to keep Towns at the 5 primarily with the 3 wings in the starting lineup, as opposed to putting him at the 4. That's why you have to keep it there, because that's how this offense runs. That's where it starts. That 5-out idea doesn't happen when you put Mitch or Precious in the starting lineup next to him. That's a completely different look, and it takes away everything that's made this Knicks team click this year when they click. And I thought the defense last night, for as much shit as we give it, last night it was pretty fine. It was fine. It was enough. I'll say the defense was enough. You're playing against a Denver team that has a very high-octane offense. Very deadly. They have the best player in basketball on that roster. One of the best players of all time. But I thought the Knicks shut Jokic down. Towns loves that matchup. Dates back to Game 7 of the conference finals. But the Knicks set the tone for this game at the very start with their energy level defensively. Did they slip up a little bit in the fourth quarter, let their foot off the gas? They let Westbrook run wild a little bit? Sure. But overall, I thought they looked good. I thought they were crisp in rotation. I thought their help defense was very aware. Their digs were very sharp into the driving lanes. I thought they sent a lot of help to Jokic when they needed to. They were much quicker on closeouts, and that was key because last game, the defense was just very slow getting out to the perimeter. You know, Denver only shot 33 threes last night. That's a very low number. They had a couple of open threes, but that's going to happen because the Knicks were still blitzing on the ball, helping off the ball. And, you know, I didn't know he still played, but DeAndre Jordan, very good screener. He can at least still do that. So they had some open looks, but for the most part, most of those three-point attempts from Denver were very contested. They were very contested because the Knicks were making much sharper closeouts and they were doing a much better job recovering off help. So it was fun, man. I mean, I don't know what else I have to say. It was one of the best wins of the year. And I think we're going to keep this one short just because I'm under the weather lately. So I'll be fine. I'm getting a little better. But, you know, I don't have my breath's a little short and, you know, can't speak very well right now because I'm under the weather a little bit. Sorry. But good win. Shout out to Campaign, too, actually. Campaign, I'm going to hand him the game ball from off the bench. 3 game balls now out in the year for Campaign. Last night, 11 points, 5 assists, shot 3 for 6, 2 of 5 from 3, 3 of 3 at the line. He was a plus 21 in 18 minutes. I thought he gave you instant offense. He was a big part of getting that big lead in the first half. He's been good for the Knicks. A little microwave scoring. Comes off the bench, not afraid to shoot the ball. Some of these shots he takes. But you live with it. He's been good. He's averaging 9 points per game on the year with the Knicks. Should say 3 right there if you're watching the podcast. 3 game balls, not 2. Let me pull up these season stats again. 9 points per game. 4 assists. 44% shooting and from the 3. 18 minutes per game across 13 games. So there's your rotation, man. Campaign's a part of your rotation. There's a question, is he going to stick around? Yeah, and I think a lot of Knicks fans are kind of buying into him a little bit more. You know, and when they get fully healthy, you're going to add Precious to that, and then things start to get interesting once Mitch returns. That's probably when Sims gets booted, and I don't know. We'll see. I'm trying to pace myself here. You know, I don't really want 3 bigs in this. Tibbs is going to lean heavy with the starters anyway. I just want to be able to. I want us to keep the spacing. So I like this team. I like this unit. I just think Precious is going to be important because they are going to be able to have. They are going to have to be able to find minutes for him so they can manage this defense a little better. But with that said, we're going to head to break, get back, talk about what's coming up next for the Knicks, and then we'll get to our trivia to wrap this up. So stay with us. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Hey there, thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much. You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4. If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. All right. The Knicks are off today, Tuesday, but they go back out there on Wednesday to wrap up this West Coast trip. The final game out west will be in Dallas tomorrow night. It's a normal 7:30 p.m. game here on the East Coast, so that's a positive. But Dallas is a team, much like the Knicks, is off to a slow start. They're 10-8 on the year, but they're 9th in the conference. Their defense has been solid. Their offense has been pretty good overall. They play pretty fast, but they also do a ton of ISO. They don't take or make a lot of threes, but they score. They get a lot of paint touches, and they don't have Luka tomorrow, so that's going to change some things for them. So the Knicks do enter this game as favorites, so that should be a positive. And then after Wednesday's game, they go back to the East Coast, where they finish their road trip in Charlotte. Okay, so that's it. Dallas tomorrow night should be a win. And then you win that game, and all of a sudden you're looking at a West Coast trip where you took 3 out of 4. Yeah, you took 3 out of 4. And if you can win tomorrow, it'll be 6 out of 7 overall. So that's good. All right. So with that said, we're going to wrap it up with our trivia as soon as we return from our final break. Here on episode 750 of the podcast, the Knicks fry the Nuggets in Mile High.
Thanks for listening to BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion.
Welcome back to the show. Episode 750 of the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4. Now, like I said, I'm going to try to cut this episode short, so we're going to wrap it up here with our trivia. Although, if I can get to it's either going to be a blog or a social media post. I'm going to try to break down some film. If I can get to that before tomorrow's game, I'll try to get to that, but we'll see. But let's wrap this up with our trivia question. All right, so for this episode 750, our trivia question, it's about OG Anunoby, the man of the night. In 23 regular season games with the Knicks last year, OG Anunoby had one 25-point game. How many does he have this year? All right, in 23 regular season games with the Knicks last year, OG Anunoby had one 25-point game. How many does he have this year? And obviously, for the layman out there, 25-point game, meaning 25 points or more. But that's it. So I appreciate you all tuning in. I'm going to go drop this episode on social. I'll have it up on all platforms, Apple, YouTube, Spotify. And big win for the Knicks. It was nice. So hopefully we can get a lot more of that going forward. But final score last night, 145-118. The Knicks fry the Nuggets in Mile High. Good to pick up a win there. Dallas up next. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you. And we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks!